So, Jim, earlier this week, we saw Citigroup Bank of America saying they posted profits January and February. Now, are these bank profits a mirage based on lower foreclosure rates?
Okay, I think that's the real question, which is that can we trust this? And I'd like to flip it around a little. The discussion going into this week was set by Senator Shelby and by Tim Geithner, which is that basically, look, maybe these should be liquidated. They're just General Motors. It's like General Motors keeps putting out cars, they keep losing money. And that's just a given. That's just what happens with GM. Don't bother to save it. The news from Citi, from JP Morgan, from Bank of America, from Wells Fargo is, listen, our core business is profitable. Don't put us down like dogs. You know, if we didn't have to offset it with foreclosures, you'd see we've been very profitable, which then changes the dynamic. So suddenly if you're Bernanke, not Geithner, because Geithner's not been on board. If you're Bernanke, what Bernanke says, you know what? We ought to just make it so the foreclosures aren't rushed, and that maybe we shouldn't value their whole portfolio. He didn't want to, no one's ever going to talk about suspend mark-to-market because that means we have no discipline. But maybe if we adopted a mark-to-market light where we had a little flexibility, it would be a more honest depiction of the profits and losses. Because if you had to take the worst house and mark the whole portfolio against it, then the profits would be chimerical. It would just simply be a mirage. But if you had forbearance, if you had Bernanke's view, then what would happen is you'd say, you know what, these are pretty good institutions. They're borrowing at nothing. They're lending at 4, 5, 6. Let's give them some time. And that was why this rally happened.
But can you believe it? Do you want to get into these banks because of
that?
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
JP Morgan for me, Bank of America, Rick Bensignor, who is a great writer in Real Money, came out with a fabulous call this week with Bank of America at 3-4 saying you got to buy it. The reason why I want to buy into it is because there's the possibility, FASB, which is the one that has created the so-called strict mark-to-market, we don't know what they're going to come down at. But if Tim Geithner, it's really up to him, and that's not a good place to be. But if Tim Geithner believes in what Ben Bernanke said, and Ben Bernanke's really been at the vanguard here, then what you're going to see is you're going to see the real profits and you won't see the offsetting losses. And suddenly you'll recognize that the capital will build and that these institutions are not only solvent but very profitable, and there's no reason to nationalize them.
What about Citigroup?
Citigroup, they should never have taken that big stake that they did in Citi. I don't know what really happened there. That was Tim Geithner saying, okay, listen, we don't care about tier 1 capital, which is very high at Citi. What we care about is common equity, and the shorts drove Citigroup stock to 1. So what happened is the Treasury, once again, like with Lehman Brothers, was just reactive. And a proactive Treasury Secretary would say, that's it. That's the line in the sand. We're not going to have to do that to any other. And Citi was the aberration. The rest are solvent. Again, if he did that, it would be terrific. Again, Geithner's been terrible. He did propose a plan. Frank Rich hit me the other day in the New York Times saying, suddenly Cramer likes Geithner. He hates Geithner. No, Geithner proposed a plan a month ago that was the right plan, which is to forbear and look the other way. And then he changed his mind, and then he changed his mind again. And that's why the Saturday Night Live skit poking fun at Geithner was probably the most accurate thing I've seen about our Treasury Secretary.
But the takeaway for now is that we can believe these bank profits.
We can believe.
All right. Thanks so much, Jim.
Thank you.